From beyond the veil of the Force, infinite paths stretch before us. Choices made and unmade, destinies fulfilled and averted. Today, we explore one such path. What if Qui-Gon Jinn had survived his duel with Darth Maul? What if the maverick Jedi Master who believed in the living Force had lived to train the Chosen One? In this timeline, a single parry, a moment's warning, reshapes not just one destiny, but the fate of the entire galaxy. The plasma walls flicker red, then fade to transparency. Qui-Gon Jinn charges forward, his green blade singing through the air as it meets the crimson fury of Darth Maul's double-bladed saber. The Sith warrior spins, strikes, parries, a whirlwind of calculated rage. The narrow walkways of the Theed generator complex leave little room for error. Maul has studied them both, knows their patterns. Qui-Gon's aggressive Ataru form that drains stamina. Obi-Wan's defensive Soresu still developing, still imperfect. But this time, something's different. As Maul winds up for that fatal thrust that should pierce Qui-Gon's stomach, Obi-Wan's desperate cry echoes through the chamber complex a second earlier. "Master, behind you!" Qui-Gon pivots. Not completely, but enough. The blade that should have killed him instead tears through his side, cauterizing flesh and muscle but missing vital organs by centimeters. The pain is excruciating, dropping him to one knee. But he's alive. Obi-Wan, freed from the plasma wall, doesn't wait. He doesn't watch his master fall. He leaps over Maul, catches Qui-Gon's saber midair, and together, master and apprentice, green blade and blue, they drive the Zabrak warrior back. The coordination is imperfect but effective. Where Qui-Gon's strength fails, Obi-Wan covers. Where Obi-Wan's experience lacks, Qui-Gon guides. Maul, overwhelmed by facing two Jedi in a desperate synchronization, makes a fatal miscalculation. His staff splits under their combined assault, and as he stumbles backward, maintaining his defense with only half his weapon, Obi-Wan sees the opening, not for killing, but for ending the threat. A force push, perfectly timed, sends Maul tumbling into the reactor shaft, but not before Obi-Wan sees something in the Sith's yellow eyes. Not fear, satisfaction, as if even in defeat, something larger has been set in motion. Qui-Gon collapses, blood seeping through his robes despite the cauterization, his breathing labored but steady. His withered hand grips Obi-Wan's arm with surprising strength. "The boy," he gasps, but it's not a dying request. It's a declaration of intent. "I will train the boy." Medical droids arrive within minutes, but those 5 words have already changed everything. The Jedi Council chambers feel smaller somehow, with Qui-Gon standing before them, bandages still visible beneath his robes, a slight tremor in his left hand that he masks with practiced stillness. 9-year-old Anakin Skywalker waits outside, but everyone knows he's the real reason for this gathering. Master Yoda's ears droop slightly, his gimmer stick tapping against the floor in contemplation. "Survived you have, Qui-Gon. The force of the will this is." Yoda acknowledges, though concern clouds his ancient features. "But trained the boy must not be. Too old he is. Fear in him, we sense." Qui-Gon's voice carries the weight of absolute conviction, though speaking still pains him. "Then let me teach him how to face that fear, not bury it. The living Force speaks through this child, and I will not turn away from its voice. You sense his fear because he doesn't hide it. He's honest about it. That's not weakness, Masters. That's the beginning of wisdom." Mace Windu leans forward, fingers steepled, his Shatterpoint's ability showing him fractures spreading from this moment. "You've always walked dangerously close to the edge of our teachings, Qui-Gon. Training the Chosen One your way could what?" Qui-Gon interrupts, something he rarely does, his voice gaining strength. "Could produce a Jedi who questions, who thinks, who feels." He turns slowly, addressing the entire council. "We've become so focused on suppressing emotion that we've forgotten emotions are part of the living Force itself. Attachment isn't the enemy. Unchecked attachment is. Fear isn't the path to the dark side. Being controlled by fear is." The council grants permission, reluctantly, voting 7-5. Obi-Wan is knighted, the youngest in a generation, but there's a shadow in his eyes. He'd prepared his whole life to be Qui-Gon's successor, and now he watches a former slave boy take what he thought was his place. Qui-Gon sees this, and in the weeks that follow, makes sure Obi-Wan remains part of Anakin's training, creating a triad rather than a traditional master-apprentice pair. Over the years that follow, Anakin's training looks nothing like traditional Jedi instruction. While other Padawans meditate in sterile chambers, Qui-Gon takes Anakin to the lower levels of Coruscant, where refugees cluster in forgotten corners. The Crew Entertainment District, level 1313, places the temple pretends don't exist. Feel their suffering, Qui-Gon instructs, watching Anakin help distribute food to Twi'lek refugees from Ryloth. But don't let it overwhelm you. Compassion without boundaries becomes destructive. Help where you can, accept what you cannot change, and know the difference. When Anakin struggles with anger after witnessing a slaver's ring, memories of his mother flooding back, Qui-Gon doesn't tell him anger is forbidden. Instead, they spar, intensely, almost brutally, until Anakin's rage exhausts itself. Anger is fire, Qui-Gon explains, helping his Padawan to his feet, noting with approval how Anakin's technique improved even in fury. Suppressed, it smolders and eventually explodes. Released with purpose, it can forge strength. The key is not to let it forge you. Shmi Skywalker is freed within the first year, Qui-Gon ensuring what the Council wouldn't. She lives on Naboo under Padme's protection, and Anakin visits her regularly. The Council disapproves, but Qui-Gon stands firm. You fear his attachment to his mother? Then you fear love itself. I'm teaching him to love without possessing, to cherish without clinging. These visits aren't feeding attachment. They're healing the wound that attachment would fester in. Years pass like flowing water, each leaving its mark. The boy becomes a young man, powerful beyond measure, but tempered by wisdom rarely seen in one so young. His lightsaber technique blends forms. Qui-Gon's aggressive Ataru, Obi-Wan's defensive Suresu, and something uniquely his own, unpredictable as the desert winds of Tatooine. When he stands before Padme Amidala as her protector, 10 years after their first meeting, she sees the difference immediately. This isn't the impulsive boy who asked if she was an angel. This is someone who carries power with the ease of understanding its weight. Their conversation on the refugee transport, Padme disguised as a pilot fleeing another assassination attempt, reveals the change. You've grown, she observes, and there's something in her voice that wasn't there before. Master Qui-Gon says growth is just learning to see ourselves more clearly. Anakin replies, I see my fears now, my anger, my love. He meets her eyes directly. I won't pretend I don't care for you, Senator, but I also won't let that caring compromise my duty or yours. Palpatine notices the difference too. The Chancellor's office feels colder somehow when Anakin visits, at Palpatine's repeated invitations. The old politician's grandfatherly demeanor never quite reaches his eyes when Qui-Gon is mentioned. His plans, so carefully laid, keep encountering unexpected resistance. The inhibitor chips in the clones, designed to ensure Order 66's success, are discovered by Qui-Gon during a medical review. He'd insisted on understanding the beings he was leading. The chips are explained away as aggression inhibitors, but Qui-Gon's suspicion leads to deeper investigation. Your master is quite unconventional, Palpatine observes, pouring Anakin tea with practiced precision, noting how the young Jedi doesn't immediately drink, showing patience Palpatine hadn't expected. The Council must find him frustrating. Anakin's response surprises him. Master Qui-Gon taught me that frustration often comes from encountering truths we're not ready to accept. The Council sees one path, he sees many. The Chancellor's smile tightens almost imperceptibly. And what path do you see, young Skywalker? The one that leads to peace, Anakin replies simply. Though Master Qui-Gon warns me that peace and order aren't always the same thing. Order can be imposed, peace must be chosen. When the Clone Wars begin, the galaxy fractures along lines Palpatine carefully drew, but not quite as he intended. Qui-Gon, now a Jedi General despite his reluctance, refuses to see the clones as expendable. He learns their names, their quirks, their dreams. Rex, Cody, Fives, Echo. Not numbers, but individuals. Anakin follows suit, and soon, the 501st Legion isn't just led by Jedi. They're led by Jedi who see them as brothers. General Grievous still terrorizes the Republic, but without Dooku's full commitment, the Count increasingly questions his master's methods. The Separatist movement lacks its earlier cohesion. Ventress, trained by Dooku, finds herself drawn to Qui-Gon's philosophy during a confrontation. His words echoing, the dark side promises power, but delivers only chains. You're strong enough to break them, if you choose. The Force works in patterns, in cycles, in moments that echo across time. When Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon arrive on Mortis, drawn by a distress signal that speaks directly to their minds, the Father greets them with something approaching relief. The realm itself seems more stable, less fractured, as if Anakin's different training has already begun affecting the cosmic balance.
You,
he says to Qui-Gon, ancient eyes reflecting eons of solitude.
You understand what my children never could. Balance isn't dominance of light over dark, or dark over light. It's the tension between them that creates life itself.
The visions come as they must. Anakin sees himself in black armor, breathing mechanically, a shadow of hatred and pain. He sees Padme dying, calling his name. He sees younglings cowering before a blue blade, but instead of facing it alone, Qui-Gon stands beside him in the vision, unafraid, a hand on Anakin's shoulder anchoring him to the present.
This is what you could become,
the son whispers, his voice like poisoned honey, showing Anakin power beyond imagination.
This is your destiny. Kill the father, kill the daughter, and save everyone you love from death itself.
But Qui-Gon's training holds. The future is always in motion, Anakin recites, not as a platitude, but as truth lived and understood. This is one path, not the only path. And even if it were certain, I'd rather lose everything standing in the light than keeping it all kneeling in darkness. The daughter approaches, her light mixing with shadow, creating something neither light nor dark, but alive.
See the balance,
she tells Anakin.
Not light destroying dark or dark consuming light, but both existing, each defining the other. Your master taught you well.
When they leave Mortis, Anakin doesn't carry the burden of inevitable fall. He carries knowledge, dangerous, powerful knowledge, but tempered by understanding. The Father's parting words echo.
The chosen one isn't chosen for power, but for choice itself.
The pivotal moment comes not in the Chancellor's office, but in the Senate itself. Qui-Gon has spent months investigating, following threads of conspiracy that lead inexorably to Palpatine, the inhibitor chips, mysterious funding patterns, communications with separatist space. Piece by piece, the puzzle assembles. When Dooku is captured aboard the Invisible Hand, alive because Anakin, guided by Qui-Gon's philosophy, refuses to execute an unarmed prisoner despite Palpatine's urging, the former Jedi breaks.
You want the truth, Master Qui-Gon?
Dooku laughs bitterly from his cell, his elegant composure finally cracking.
The truth is that the Jedi have already won. The Republic has been dancing to my master's tune for 13 years. Every vote, every emergency power, every dead Jedi, all part of the plan.
The confrontation happens during an emergency Senate session. Palpatine, sensing the walls closing in, attempts to force the endgame. He announces the discovery of a Jedi plot to overthrow the Republic, presenting forged evidence. But Qui-Gon has anticipated this. As Palpatine speaks, the massive Senate chamber's screens flicker to life. Not with propaganda, but with recordings, Palpatine's communications with Dooku, orders for the creation of both armies, the truth, irrefutable and damning. The transformation is instantaneous. The kindly Chancellor's face twists from grandfatherly to monstrous, and force lightning erupts from his fingers, striking down Senate guards.
If I cannot rule,
he snarls, his true voice like grinding stone,
then you will all burn.
But he's not facing a confused young Jedi torn between loyalties. He's facing 3 unified Jedi Masters. Mace Windu's purple blade deflects the lightning. Qui-Gon moves with surprising speed for his age, cutting off Palpatine's escape. And Anakin, the Chosen One, stands between the Sith Lord and the cowering senators, his blue blade steady, his presence in the Force like a mountain, immovable, unshakable.
You could have been a god,
Palpatine screams at Anakin, desperation cracking his voice.
I could have taught you to save her.
My wife isn't dying, Anakin responds calmly. That was a vision you would have created, a self-fulfilling prophecy to turn me. Master Qui-Gon taught me the difference between visions and manipulations. You have no power over me. The battle is fierce but brief. Palpatine, for all his power, spent decades hiding, pot-licking, manipulating, not fighting. Against 3 Jedi in their prime, united in purpose and strengthened by truth, he falls, not to anger or hatred, but to justice itself. The revelation of Palpatine's true nature shatters the Republic, but from those shards, something new begins to form. The Jedi Order, humbled by how blind they've been, undergoes reformation. Yoda steps aside as Grand Master, acknowledging the characteristic humility that the old ways led them to near destruction. 900 years of certainty, he admits to the assembled Order. Blind I become to 900 years of change needed. In his place, a council of equals forms. Yoda, Mace, Qui-Gon, Plo Koon, Shaak Ti, and others, each bringing different perspectives. The rigid code softens, acknowledging that absolute rules create absolute failures. Anakin and Padme marry openly with the Order's blessing. The ceremony held in the Room of 1,000 Fountains. Love isn't attachment, Qui-Gon explains to the assembled Jedi. His words carried throughout the temple. Love is connection. Attachment is the fear of losing that connection. We must learn to love without possessing, to hold without grasping. The Force itself is built on connections. To deny them is to deny the Force. When Luke and Leia are born, they enter a galaxy not perfect, but healing. The Clone Wars end not with Order 66, but with integration. Clones given citizenship, choice, identity beyond warfare. Some remain soldiers, others become farmers, teachers, explorers. Fives becomes a senator, representing clone rights. Rex opens a military academy, teaching tactics with humanity. Dooku vanishes into the unknown regions before his trial, his cryptic warning echoing,
"The Sith are eternal. We are patient. This victory is merely a postponement."
But for now, the galaxy knows peace, real peace, not the enforced order of an empire. Qui-Gon, aged but vital, his hair now completely silver, stands with his former Padawan on the temple's highest tower, watching Coruscant's sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Anakin, now a Jedi Master in his own right, carries his lightsaber still, but also something more. Wisdom earned, not inherited. His children play in the temple gardens below, Force-sensitive and free to choose their own paths. "You saved me," Anakin says quietly, his mechanical hand lost in a duel with Ventress, who eventually became an ally, gleaming in the dying light. "From a fate I didn't even know was hunting me." Qui-Gon shakes his head, his long gray hair catching the breeze. "No, Anakin, you saved yourself. I merely showed you that you had a choice. The Force isn't about destiny. It's about the paths we choose to walk. Every moment, every decision, every act of compassion or courage, these are what shape the galaxy, not prophecies written in ancient text." Below them, the galaxy turns, billions of lives interconnected, each making choices that ripple outward like waves in an infinite ocean. The Sith may return, evil always does in one form or another, but so does good, and more importantly, so does choice. The younglings training below will face their own darkness someday, but they'll face it with the wisdom of balance, not the rigidity of dogma. The Chosen One brought balance not through destruction, but through understanding, not through falling and being redeemed, but through never falling at all, because someone who survived shouldn't have, because the Force, mysterious and vast, sometimes hinges on the smallest moments. A warning called out a second sooner, a blade turned slightly aside, a master who lived to teach a different way. In this galaxy, Anakin Skywalker became exactly who he was meant to be, not because it was prophesized, but because he was given the freedom to choose. And in that choice, in that freedom, the Force itself found balance. The sun sets on Coruscant, but it's not an ending. It's a promise of tomorrow, of possibilities infinite and unwritten. In the temple below, a young Togruta Padawan named Ahsoka Tano, drawn to the Order by its reformation, begins her training under Master Plo Koon. Her destiny now completely her own to forge. If you enjoyed this journey into an alternative Star Wars universe where destiny takes unexpected turns and balance means something entirely different, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We explore the infinite possibilities hidden within the galaxy far, far away, asking the questions that reshape everything you thought you knew. The Force has many paths. Come discover them with us.